The reason you're struggling to get into your offense isn't your technique. It isn't how good you are at wrestling. It even isn't how good your opponent is. It's because you're doing a couple things wrong and you make these changes and you think about your offense in the correct way and you'll be attacking much, much better and getting to your offense much more often in matches. I'm Weston Wichman. I was a Division I wrestler. I now coach at the best club in the country, Askren Wrestling Academy. And I guarantee after you make these changes, you'll score more points. So obviously to score more points, we need to attack more, but we got to get into a couple things before I explain how we're going to attack more and how that's going to make us successful. The first big thing that I see in high school wrestlers and even lower level college guys, and then especially in youth all the time, is you allow the other guy to wrestle in his positions. You allow that guy in his best positions, and then we ask ourselves, like, why aren't we scoring points? Well, it's because we're allowing that guy to wrestle in his best positions. Too many wrestlers are okay with standing in ties that they aren't good from scoring in. You're in your match, guy grabs his ties, and we'll just sit. Some guys hang over the top, some guys grab a collar tie, some guys go ear to ear. And even if it's not his position, it's also not our position, which makes it not a position we want to be in. So I think the biggest thing is asking yourself, is this position conducive to me scoring points? And if the answer is no, we probably shouldn't be in that position. And obviously you're going to end up in positions like that. Wrestling's not perfect. It's how fast can we exit that position or transition that position to a different position that is going to help us score points. So if a guy comes in and grabs ties on you and you don't like the ties, you have a couple options. You need to clear those ties and back out and re-engage. You need to take his ties, clear them and make them your own ties. So fight inside, get you your own ties. Or you need to cause some sort of movement that's going to make that guy let go of his ties, like snapping his wrists off, faking so he has to lower his hands, something along those lines to get that guy out of position where you can start now working into your positions. The next thing we got to do before we can start attacking more and scoring more points is we have to know where we're best from. You'd be surprised how many youth guys and how many high schoolers you ask, hey, what is your best position? And they don't even know it. Coaches, if you're watching this, ask your athletes this. Make sure that they're thinking about where they score the most points from. It's super important, and just a lot of kids don't think about it because they've never been asked it, right? They get taught all these setups, they get taught this, they get taught that, and they never really know what their best positions are because they're just trying to hit the setups, which is great. It's awesome that they're trying to hit the things you're working in practice, but at the same time, they should also know that, hey, it's overtime. This is my best tie to my best attack to my best way to score points. And a lot of kids just don't know that. Yeah, all the way up to college. From youth all the way up to college, kids don't know that. So we should always have in our back of our head our best tie-ups and what attacks do we have from that best tie-up. Our second best tie-up and what attacks do we have from that tie-up. And all the attacks should be labeled 1, 2, and 3 as well. So if my best tie-up is inside ties, right? For me personally, inside ties, my best scoring opportunity is my single leg. My second best scoring opportunity is my high crotch. My third best scoring opportunity is faking one of those and getting a snap down, right? And so it's like understanding your own wrestling is a big part of wrestling, and you have to think about these things. These things, some kids obviously just do them instinctively, right? And that's why they're good wrestlers. But even those guys, like if they get into a rut and stuff like that, it's more than likely they're not grabbing their ties. And so it's like, just wrestlers think about this. You'd be surprised how good of guys don't even know the answers to this stuff. I think just creating a game plan of probably your best 3 tie-ups, right? One of them is going to be like a main tie-up that you can get to pretty often, like inside ties. The next one's probably going to be a similar thing where we can get to pretty often. And then the third one could be like a niche tie-up, like an over tie or maybe an underhook or something like that, where it's like, obviously these are good positions to be in, but it's not necessarily a position that you're going to be able to get to easily if the other wrestler is an adequate wrestler that you're wrestling against. The last thing we need to do to score more points is just attack more. Obviously, if we're not attacking enough, we're not giving ourselves chances to score points. So in really, really simple terms, you got to ask yourself, if I attack, what dangers are there? The typical dangers is if I shoot, I get put in a front headlock. And is that necessarily a super bad thing for me? If you're getting scored on from front headlock a lot, it's a bad thing, right? If we shoot, we don't get to the shot, guy grabs front headlock, we get scored on a bunch, bad. We need to work on our front headlock defense then. It's not we need to work on better shots. It's not we need to get better setups. No, we need to work on front headlock defense. You shouldn't be getting scored from front headlock that often. The other thing is, am I shooting this guy's down block go behind me, right? Those are quick points that we cannot give up in high level matches. And so we really need to focus on those two things first and ask ourselves, when I shoot and don't get to a leg, do I get scored on very much? The next thing we need to ask ourselves, when I shoot and don't get to a leg, do I get stuck in front headlock for a long time? Time is precious in a wrestling match. You only get so much. Little kids, it's like 3 minutes. High school is 6. College, it's 7. Right? So it's like we don't have a whole bunch of time. So if we shoot and don't get into a leg and we get stuck in front headlock for 30, 45 seconds, just getting bounced and getting more tired than the other guy, that's a big deal. Again, we need to get better at front headlock defense. Same answer. So your number 1 and 2 answers, if you have problems with either of those, is just get better in front headlock. We should be able to get out of front headlock pretty quickly and not get scored on pretty often from front headlock. And that's going to allow us to have little repercussions when we do attack. So now we're not getting scored on from front headlock. Guys aren't down block going behind us, and we know how to get out of front headlock and back to our feet. Now we should be able to pretty much attack whenever we want to. Right? I should be able to attack my ties, shoot in. If I don't get to the leg, I get out of front headlock, I get back up, I shoot in again. Right? And it's just over and over and over. The more we get to locks on legs, the more likely we are to score. So the way I put it to my guys is if we only get to 3 shots in a match and our finish percentage is, especially if we're just kind of starting this process, right? Our finish percentage is pretty low. Let's go 33%. I don't know if that's a low or high finish percentage, but we get into 3 shots, we finish 1 out of every 3 shots, that's 1 takedown a match. Now let's take the same numbers, we get into 9 shots, we finish 1 out of every 3, now we're getting 3 takedowns a match. So it's like you only need to shoot 9 times to get 3 takedowns a match. Think if you shot 15 to 20 times, right? 15 times we're getting 5 takedowns a match, that's 15 points. That's a lot of points. So once you recognize your own ties, recognize where you don't want to be and where you do want to be, start clearing the ties that you don't want to be and really trying to force the ties that you do want to be, you're going to start being able to attack more. Once you start attacking more, make sure that we're not getting scored on with front headlock and go behinds, and then just continuously getting better at finishing shots. How do we get better at finishing shots? Shooting more shots. So it's a process that's going to pay dividends over time. You might start shooting and you're like, oh, I'm not finishing, and it's going to shy you away from shooting. Keep shooting a bunch, especially in practice. Shoot. That's going to get you better at shooting and finishing. Okay, so if you're like, well, I'm not a good shooter, well, yeah, that's because you need to do it, right? Confidence is built through the action of doing something, not just sitting around waiting for confidence to show up. If you feel like you're failing to get to your offense, try these things. I guarantee they will help.